Well, this is How Stupid People Succeed. I'm Josh, this is Jeremy, and this is our guest, the head coach himself.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Jerrod Slater.
Jerrod, guys.
It's great having you, man.
I'm glad to be here.
Eventually, I'll have somebody on the show without a J in their name.
Yeah.
This isn't a J thing. We'll get rid of it. I thought you were going to call me Jerrod for a second. You kind of look like you're about to struggle.
It's a great name.
Yeah. So, Jerrod Slater, head coach, Harding football.
Yep.
Grew up a block away from where the old high school was. We grew up childhood friends.
Yep.
Me and your older brother were, pretty much like brothers. You were like a little brother to me, always have been.
Yep.
So to see your progression of, just this little kid I knew to now, you're a husband, you're a dad, you played college football, you obviously played for Harding, but now you're kind of back, right? You're like, not in like a negative way, but it's almost like the prodigal son, like the last king is coming over the hill because the program's really struggled. And I think for a local community, there's something to be said about strong, successful men and strong, successful athletics. And it's weird to see because we remember the heyday of Friday night. There was one thing during football season everybody did. And living in a small town where the school and the football field is planted right in the middle of that small town, I remember a sea of people would walk down South Vine Street, Powhatan, all those little side streets, and walk toward that stadium.
Yeah, I was one of them.
And now the attendance is completely different. The feel around the program is completely different. I will say this, and this is something I think needs to be said publicly that I don't think gets enough credit, but you've also done an amazing job of building an incredible staff around you.
Appreciate that.
You've been so intentional, and you would probably never say this, so I'm going to say it for you. You've been so intentional about the character and the quality of men you surround all those young boys with that, like, we don't live in Marion City, but if my son was getting ready to play football, I would send him there for that sole reason.
Yeah.
And so as a community member, I think that can't be expressed enough in the thanks that you've purposely have developed those men around you to just be phenomenal men. They're all phenomenal men. Family men, they have a genuine heart for those boys.
Yeah.
They have a heart for you.
Yeah.
You have a heart for them and all that. So let's just jump into it. Football, right? We like it. You live it.
It's my life. Yeah.
And I think for me, one of the eye-opening things is as you've taken this role on, I was amazed at how much time and stress and demand was required of you.
Yeah.
So from going to being an assistant coach to the head coach, what are some of the things you've had to adjust or you've had to respond to in being successful?
I mean, being an assistant coach, it's I don't want to say it's easy, but you get to sit back and you get to see all the behind the scenes stuff that the head coach has to deal with, but you don't really have to deal with it. But when you're in charge, that's one of the reasons why we're so intentional about the staff. It's like you've got to make sure that you're overseeing everything, and it's not just Friday nights. It's not just about Friday nights. It's about the youth program, making sure our youth program is thriving. It's about the middle school program, making sure they're thriving. We're all Browns fans, and one of the things that was said, and whether it's our fifth head coach in 8 years, one of the things that was said in Kevin Stefanski's press conference, and I'm a firm believer in this, is alignment. Everybody makes fun of Jimmy for that word, but it's so true. Every successful program is aligned from top to bottom, youth, middle school to high school. And for us to get there and really work to change the culture, it has to be aligned. So that's that was one of the big shifts for me, is understanding that process, understanding the alignment that needed to happen. I think we're getting there. I know at the end of the day I'm judged by wins and losses. I mean, it is what it is, but nobody can say that the program isn't going in this upward trajectory. So.
But even as a player, you said something very interesting. As a player, though, your relationship with Coach Hinton, who's kind of a living legend now, coaching at Ohio State, doing things on a significant level, your relationship with him isn't determined by the wins and losses you had during your high school years. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Coach Hinton and I we've got a pretty good relationship. He was a huge mentor for me. Was lucky enough to play for him, for 3 years of being in high school. Then he left to go coach at UC before my senior year. But to be on 2 playoff teams and, and to just be around, the product and the culture that he had created, has made a huge impact on me. One of the first people that called me after I got hired was Coach Hinton. It was pretty cool, you know. He told me I had a responsibility, and he told me it was going to be the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. After we beat Pleasant this year, he called me, literally midnight that night.
Wow.
He's got a game to worry about, but he called me, and I'm just like, you've got a responsibility. And he also is not afraid to critique me as well, and I appreciate that about him. That was something in my younger years I didn't necessarily appreciate, but he gives me constructive criticism, and it's great to have that type of mentorship, in my life, and then that's around the program because it means something to him.
Now there's the whole unfair side of being the guy, being the head coach, and a lot of unfair pressure. You're obviously easily recognizable in the community because you're exposed, you're visual, you're recognizable, you're friendly, you have a great smile, you have a great personality. How do you manage, and your wife and your family, how do you guys manage the line between personal, home, pressure, stress?
Well, I mean, fair or unfair, it doesn't matter. When you're put in that position as the guy that's the leader of this program, you're going to get pressure no matter what. We knew that going into it. My wife and I sat down and had long discussions about that before we took the job. And I say we because it's a family thing. And, the pressure and the different things that we have to deal with, it's all part of the job, man. I'm never going to sit here and complain, well, so-and-so doesn't like me or so-and-so. It is what it is, We have to be comfortable with what we're trying to do with the program. And at the end of the day, those kids on the team and this program matters. Everybody else is just, outside noise. And that's where our focus has tried to be. So, handling the pressure, it's just really making sure that you're locked in on what you're truly what you're there for. And, one of the things that was the hardest, I'm probably saying too much, but it is what it is. One of the things that was the hardest thing for me this off season was to come to the realization that my faith wasn't, fully intact as far as my belief that I need to open up this program to God, you know what I mean? And that was a hard realization for me. And that's where we're talking about alignment, obviously it's a public school, so we can't be, talking about our relationship with God, in a public forum, but, I need to make sure that my alignment is intact, and God has to be the head of that. So that was one of the things that was tough for me. So as long as you've got that, all the other stuff, it is what it is. It's part of the job.
And it's the value of having relationships around you that are supporting you no matter what. Because it allows you to come to the reality of that alignment faster, or the misalignment faster.
Exactly.
Because these are people that have been with me through thick and thin, and no matter where I'm at, I know and they know probably where I'm at. And sometimes they probably know where I'm at better than I do.
Yeah.
And I just have to be a lot more humble in accepting that faster.
Absolutely.
So back to that. So you're recognizable. You're obviously, a polarizing figure in our community. You have, you're married. You have these two,
great word.
You have these two, beautiful daughters. You come from these two great families. Everybody on the outside looking in, and probably some of the criticism you get, is this irrational opinion of, he's tough, he can handle it. I'm justified in this opinion. His life is kind of in this bubble or in this circle. But several years ago, you and I got into a conversation at random about some stuff that you shared with me that I never, to me, it was just a shock.
Yeah.
That you were struggling in that way. So do you care to open up a little bit about what those struggles have been and how you navigate that now? Yeah.
So mental health is something I'm very passionate about. And I'll be very transparent about I've battled, anxiety and depression, since I was a little kid. I was a person that really cared about what other people thought of me. And I really let that stuff, affect me in a negative way. So as you get older, you learn to cope and deal and mask a lot of that stuff. And I realized over time, especially around college and after I graduated, that's not healthy. It's not the right way to live. If you're continuing to mask, who you are, It's not healthy for your mental state. So, as far as, becoming the head coach and just coaching in general and being an educator, there's a lot of stressful situations that you're put into. I mean, it is what it is. It's finding that balance of, being able to separate, the stress that you're dealing with in the football realm or in the education realm from your family. You know what I mean? And that's what I always told my wife. The second, those things start to spill over into the family, I'm done coaching, I'm done teaching, I'll go work somewhere 9 to 5 so I don't have any stress. Like, I've got to go to work, I got to get this done, I get to come home. So, it's just making sure that family aspect is good, making sure my relationship with my wife and my kids, is number one. So it's been tough, but, you just got to, if you want to do both, you've got to find a way, to balance it.
And when you're pursuing something that you're passionate about or you want to be successful and you start buying into it a little too much, it can be as destructive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some advice that I got from somebody that was, having a lot of business success, but he had let it just dominate his reality. And so then it poured over into his personal life, and his personal life basically fell apart.
Yeah.
Then he looked at me and he said something that stuck with me, but he said, I was having the greatest run of business success I've ever had while I had the greatest failure in my personal life I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I think it's such an important role when we talk about success is being able to separate, right, the value levels that exist. So football's important.
Yeah.
But it's not more important than your family or your wife.
Not at all.
And having that disconnect and understanding and that management of, okay, how do I? So what are when you're feeling that stress and that weight of, it's a stressful season or there's an issue that happened or something that you're getting or whatever, what do you like? Do you just walk in the door and just try to take a deep breath and pretend it doesn't exist? Or how do you deal with trying to remove the stressful moments to make sure, hey, I don't want this to come out at home, or I don't want my girls to feel like dad's, bringing all this stuff to them.
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to who you surround yourself with on the staff. A lot of the guys on the coaching staff, have had similar struggles that I've had. So being able to confide in them a little bit, Coach Weibling really well. That's a guy that I can really turn to if I'm struggling. Mm-hmm. He's really great at just like shutting everything down and focusing on you and focusing on what you're going through. And it's like, sometimes you need that. And I need that. The other thing is, being able and comfortable enough to let my wife know, like, baby, I'm struggling. You know what I mean? And I'm struggling. I need to talk to you about this. I need help. My wife is great, and I got very lucky, and I'm blessed when it comes to that. So just being able to get that like release of talking about it, And the other thing is too, like, you guys know with kids, we all have, gorgeous kids, man. Like, when you come home and like Willa, she looks at me and smiles, everything just like, that's good. Yeah. Whatever. I don't even care about that. It like melts away. So trying to make sure that when I'm at home, I'm focused on those two and then my wife. And, that's kind of how you deal with it. And, at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to ultimately be judged by, how many games we win. You know what I mean? I'm going to be judged by the impact that we made on these young men. And that's most important.
Yeah, I think the analogy that we try to talk about or we try to think about and keep in the forefront of our mind is, it sounds kind of morbid, but it's a humbling thought. When none of us make it out of this alive, but when you're laying there and everybody else shows up to honor you, nobody's going to talk about your W-2.
Absolutely.
Nobody's going to talk about your wins. You're going to have previous players talking about how you changed their life. You're going to have your family talking about the character of a man you were.
Yeah.
And you always have to keep people around you that you're constantly inventorying. Hey, how am I navigating these different spaces? Am I going in and out of them appropriately? Am I not? Does anybody feel neglected or anything like that? Yeah. One story I'll share, and then we'll just wrap it up. It was at the end of this past summer, and my daughter and I, we were spending a little bit of time together. And I just asked her, I said, Sophia, you're getting ready to go back to school. What's something that you feel like you want to get out of your summer? And I thought, maybe it was a toy, a fun event, a friend thing, whatever. Immediately, the first two things she ripped off was something to do with me. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I have to be aware as a dad that she'll probably never come up and tell me that.
Yeah.
But I need to be engaging in the conversation.
Absolutely.
Going back to your wife or my wife and saying, hey, it's been a tough run, right? The season is insane as far as schedule for you.
Yeah.
But coming back and saying, hey, am I doing this right?
Yeah.
Which is the value of relationships.
Yeah.
You want to take us out?
Yeah. Jerrod, I appreciate your transparency, man.
Hey, no problem,
and your
man.
heart, your willingness to serve, and I know as my son's 7 years old.
Josh is only stepping up because his son's in Marion City. Josh
Race, my guy.
Josh
my guy.
texts Jerrod flag football highlight clips of his 7-year-old son juking people out and say, "Hey, coach, I'm just telling you."
Yeah.
To be fair,
Come on, coach.
he was a boss.
Yeah,
But
he's pretty good. He's pretty good.
But no, I mean like having a son, I feel confident in knowing, that Jerrod Slater is going to be around, that I have the utmost confidence that being in your program and him looking up to you guys and the staff you surround yourself with, like I can rest at ease with that. It's not like going to all these other little youth programs that he's involved with, which are all great programs, but they're all coached and led by humans, and we're all flawed.
Yeah.
But I know you're really good kind of being at that top person there and being able to communicate the vision and the leadership and everything. It kind of trickles down beyond that.
Yeah, we're not perfect. I'll say that.
No.
We're not perfect. We make our mistakes, but we got a bunch of guys that care about the kids.
Absolutely.
More importantly, and they're family guys.
That's what it's about.
And one of the cool things, and I know we got to wrap up, but one of the cool things that happened this year, and it was one of my proudest moments, was like when my daughter was born. It was in worst timing ever in history of football coaching. Smack dab in the middle of 2-a-days. And I felt comfortable enough to leave to go be with my wife. And obviously everybody's like, well, duh, you should go do that. But when you're in charge of 80 kids, it's extremely difficult. But I felt comfortable enough to leave that situation, to leave the football program and leave it in their hands for, however many days. And it was, that made a huge impact on the program, made a huge impact on the kids. They got their relationship with the coaches. That's when I realized, like, man, I'm actually doing all right as far as like building a staff is concerned. So I didn't mean to keep going, but that was one of the coolest things ever, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jerrod, we'd love to have you on again.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is How Stupid People Succeed. I'm Josh. This is Jeremy, and this is our guest star, Mr. Jerrod Slater.
See you guys.